Great Canadian Fight Show, episode 22. Welcome back, folks, and happy 420. Luque and Mohammed just duked it out in UFC Fight Night last Saturday night. And as usual, the Great Canadian Fight Show is here to break it down for you. I'm one half your co-host reporting live from chilly Calgary, Alberta. Joined as always by my co-host, the brilliant Kyle Allen, reporting from Richmond. How we doing, partner?
Not too bad, not too bad. Wish the Canucks were doing a little better, but what do? They still got hope. I know Calgary is already in the playoffs, but the Canucks might squeak in there and maybe give Calgary a run for their money in the playoffs.
Please, Canucks, give my boy something to believe in. The night watch goes down. If the Canucks miss the playoffs, I don't know. I'm gonna have to send out an APB for Kyle Allen, buddy?
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to curl up in my bed for a couple of days and I don't know, cry a little bit.
Nothing wrong with crying in bed, baby. Real men cry. That's just the way it is. But back to business as usual. Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad fought in the main event of UFC Fight Night with potential title implications for welterweights. Let's get into it. The main event was an exciting fight with Bilal Muhammad dominantly winning via unanimous decision. There was no doubt about it. Kyle, let me get your reactions on this Fight Night main event.
Yeah, it was a good fight. Fairly back and forth, but after a while, Bilal Muhammad kind of had Vicente Luque's number and was able just to wrestle him pretty much the majority of the fight. And it was definitely a smart game plan coming off the last fight where he was knocked out and he kind of corrected his mistakes. And Bilal Muhammad looks solid. He looks like a force in the welterweight division, and I'm very curious to see where he goes.
Absolutely. This is indeed a new Bilal Muhammad. He's way more jacked and he's way more focused than he's ever been. Kyle, what impressed you the most about main event Muhammad on Saturday night?
Just his sheer control and be able to hold, like, obviously Luque is not a wrestler or anything like that, but his I know his takedown defense is pretty high, and he was basically able to control him again the majority of the fight. So that was probably the most impressive thing about him.
Again, Bilal Muhammad, very impressive. Totally agree. Coming out of sheer darkness before he was put in a matchup against Rocky Edwards. Seems like just yesterday, but that was quite some time ago. Vicente Luque, though, in this fight, in my opinion, it's almost like he was fighting not to lose, and he was fighting, he was so focused on the takedown from Muhammad that it kind of took him off his game plan. I mean, do you think Luque was exposed here? I mean, he was on a 4 or 5 fight win streak going into this one, Kyle.
Yeah, I think he definitely was trying to play it safe a little bit, and I think Vicente Luque is more of a fighter that does better when he's active, and he hasn't really been active. He hasn't fought. I can't remember his last fight was. What was his last fight? Stephen Thompson.
His last fight, Vicente Luque, was against Michael Chiesa on August 7th of 2021.
Oh yeah.
He won by submission darts choke in round 1.
Yeah.
He had 2 submissions in a row: Tyron Woodley and then Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, so that's almost a year layoff, and I think Vicente Luque is one of those fighters that is more suited for a little bit more activity, in my opinion.
Totally agree, Kyle. Again, Muhammad looks great on Saturday night. Does this fight warrant him the winner of Rocky Edwards versus Kamaru Usman?
I don't think so. I think he'll most likely end up fighting like a Colby Covington or Chimaev. It really depends which way Colby Covington goes. If he wants to fight Chimaev, then they'll probably do that fight. But if he's going to back out of that fight, then Bilal Muhammad might be the easier fight for him. So I could see him maybe taking that fight over Chimaev. But it definitely warrants him like a number one, almost a number one title shot with probably one more fight.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Colby Covington. We're going to go a little bit off script here, Kyle. If you were Mr. Chaos Colby Covington, who would you fight next? Would you go after Bilal Muhammad, or would you take the gamble and fight Khamzat Chimaev next?
Both aren't like big money fights for him, I guess, if that's what he's looking for. But I think the easier fight would probably be Bilal Muhammad. He
Ooh.
doesn't have quite the striking that Chimaev does. And yeah, I think if he's going for the easier fight, I think Bilal Muhammad is probably slightly an easier fight.
Yeah, I agree. It would be the easier fight. I mean, the buildup would be amazing for both of them. Bilal Muhammad comes out and calls Kobe Covington the Karen of the welterweight division. We love it. Either way, we love to see Bilal Muhammad next. I mean, man, as he looked fantastic in his last few fights, and whoever he fights next, you know it's sure to be a banger. Other big notable fights on the card, we had Andre Fialho winning via first round knockout versus Michael Beza. He was a plus 150 dog in this one. Comes off a really good fight of the night contender versus Michel Pereira, a Vancouver Kyle Allen favorite, Michel Pereira, and then looks fantastic against Michael Beza. Kyle, do we see Andre Fialho next against a ranked opponent? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. He looked really good. He even looked good against when he fought Michael Pereira. That fight was a really entertaining fight and tested Michael Pereira. But this one, yeah, he looked really solid. His striking looks real crisp. And yeah, that sequence before the knockout where he landed like 3 uppercuts on Bieza was pretty sweet.
Absolutely pretty sweet indeed. Miguel Beza, unfortunately, looks like his chin kind of failed him in his last few fights. I mean, unfortunately, you got to have a chin if you're going to be a top contender in the UFC. I mean, look at Kobe Covington. Wouldn't you say he's got one of the best chins in the game? Back to Kobe Covington. He's on the topic tonight.
I would say, yeah, you definitely got to have a bit of a chin to, especially at the higher rankings in this division. Like everyone hits pretty hard. You've seen what like Usman can do to Masvidal, and Masvidal never, like, I don't know any of his other fights where he's gotten like flatline like that. So yeah, you definitely got to have a chin in this division, and it seemed like Fialho definitely had one though.
Absolutely. Andre Fialho, we hope to see him in the octagon soon. Didn't take a lot of damage in this one. Let's turn him around quickly, UFC. Let's get him back in there. UFC International Fight Week in the summer. I'm throwing it out there. Other notable fight cards on Saturday nights. We had the women's. This was the UFC fight of the night, folks. Merab Bueno Silva eking out of this in the slimmest of decisions versus Wu Yanan. Kyle, you had it going the other way. Explain yourself.
Yeah, I watched this fight, and for me, when I was watching, I haven't rewatched it. Maybe I'll need to rewatch it, but I definitely think Yanan Wu did enough to get the decision in this one. I feel like she was more active. She was throwing more strikes, being the aggressor, and maybe Silva maybe hit her with cleaner shots. But I definitely had Wu Yunan winning 2 out of 3 rounds. But I guess the judge didn't see it that way.
I mean, I would have been happy either way. I thought it was a great fight, definitely warranted fight of the night, definitely the closest fight on the card. And congratulations, regardless, to Maya Bueno Silva. Again, she moves up the ranks in a competitive women's bantamweight division. So congratulations to her. Kyle, any other fights stand out for you on Saturday night that you'd like to recap?
Yeah, the Pat Sabatini fight was pretty good. I thought Pat Sabatini looked really good in that fight. He won in a decision, but he was fairly dominant towards the end of the fight, and was able kind of just to control TJ. And so I feel like Pat Sabatini is an interesting guy in the featherweight division. And then the other one was the co-main event. I don't really Xiao Baralho. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but I also think he looked really good, and again edged out a decision over. Not even gonna try to pronounce this guy's name. Maybe I'll let you give it a go, but yeah, he also looked really good.
See, I would have gone with Chao Boralho versus
There you go.
Gadzi.
That's why you're the pronunciation guy around here.
I am the cunning linguist in the group, folks. That's what I do. But that puts a wrap on, again, a UFC fight night that had some good moments. I mean, I'm not going to be around the bush. It wasn't the greatest UFC fight night, but still had some good moments. And especially in the main event, it really established Bilal Muhammad's steady, concrete position in the welterweight top 3. and definitely puts him in the #1 contender fight for the welterweight title again. I mean, Usman's definitely has some up and coming challengers in that division. But right now, let's get into first on the back sheet this evening. We had a big featherweight championship fight in Bellator last weekend. It was AJ McKee. It was Patricio Pitbull. And they fought for the featherweight title, with Patricio Pitbull squeaking out a decision against AJ McKee on Saturday night. In honor of this, Kyle, I'd like to discuss how would Patricio Pitbull fare against the top featherweights in the UFC.
Yeah, very interesting. And these other organizations, especially Bellator, I feel Bellator is probably the closest contested what's it called, like organization compared to the UFC. And yeah, AJ McKee and Pitbull both, I think, would fare against the top two guys. Like AJ McKee versus like Max Holloway would be an amazing fight. Don't know who'd win that. And Pitbull versus Volkanovski, I would maybe give a slight edge to Volkanovski. I think he's a little bit better, but I think it'd be a very competitive fight and a very interesting fight, which I wish they could somehow figure out these cross promotions, but I know it'll probably never happen, unfortunately, but it'd be a dream if they could figure it out.
We're just dying for the WWE versus the Alliance pay-per-view from the early 2000s, a 5-on-5 tag match. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
But back to the question at hand, I think Patricio Pitbull would fare nicely. I mean, he's a great fighter. This is a guy that has to join the UFC. He has to pull a Michael Chandler, and he has to get his ass over here. I mean, he could be fighting for the championship. I mean, you just never know. AJ McKee is a massive featherweight. There was definitely a size advantage there in the fight. And for Patricio Pitbull to mentally break him down the way that he did, a very, very impressive performance on Saturday night. Next on the news, Jon Jones is back in the headlines. A little bird told me, Kyle, that he's got a potential date with Stipe Miocic in the summertime. Now, does that tickle your fancy, or does that tickle your fancy?
Definitely tickles my fancy. That's a fight to make, in my opinion. Like, we obviously know what happened to Stipe when he fought Ngannou last time, but it seems like every time Stipe loses, he comes back and he bounces back and looks even better than ever. I.e., like the Daniel Cormier loss and then came back and was able to take out Daniel Cormier. So I think that's the fight to make. It's the most entertaining fight, minus Jon Jones versus Ngannou. But I almost like this fight better than Ngannou and Jon Jones. And I think I really hope it happens. I really hope they can do it. Fingers crossed. And I want to see it.
For those of you who don't understand, that's Stipe Miocic for bring on Jon Jones. I mean, I love this fight, Kyle. I mean, you'd never count Stipe out. I mean, he looked amazing in his trilogy against Daniel Cormier, especially in the last two fights of the trilogy. I mean, Jon Jones, again, you don't know what to expect at heavyweight with him. Can he handle the power of a heavyweight? Man, just please, UFC, please get this fight together. We need to see Jon Jones back in the ring. We need to say Stipe Miocic get a proper retirement fight or a proper send-off. I mean, he deserves it. So let's get this one happen. Come on. Next on the news, unfortunate news coming out of Australia. Robert Whittaker has pulled out of his June matchup versus Marvin Vettori. Unfortunate for Vettori. I mean, he just seems to continuously be on the end of his opponents getting injuries and having to get some last-minute opponents. If you were Sean Shelby and Dana White and Mick Maynard all in one equals Kyle Allen, who comes in and replaces him, Kyle?
Let me just take a look at the rankings, see what we got here. I think a perfect one, just off the top of my head, would probably be like a Sean Strickland. I know he's supposed to fight Alex Pereira, which I really want to see that fight too. But if you really needed a dance partner, then Sean Strickland would be probably the one I would think of. But there's Derek Brunson there too, Paulo
Love
Costa.
that fight.
There's a ton of good fights there.
Well, Derek Brunson just lost to Jared Cannonier, so you could run it back. Did him and Vittori ever fight? Vittori beat him, did he not? No, he didn't. I think they were supposed to fight, but that fight ended up getting canceled.
Yeah, I don't think so. Or even you can even throw in, I don't know, it's a little bit down the road, but Kelvin Gastelum just was out of a fight with a little injury. Maybe he's ready to come back for that fight. I don't know, but not a bad fight.
I mean, Kelvin Gastelum's a number 10, so I'd feel bad for Vittori if at number 3 he ends up taking a fight with Gastelum. I mean, I'm throwing it out there. I want to see Sean Strickland in that fight. I mean, the guy, look, he had a subpar performance against Jack Hermanson. It definitely wasn't the statement he was looking for in his first main event. Give him Vittori, give him another wrestler to kind of prove himself against the grapplers in the division, because you have to go through some grapplers to earn a fight with Adesanya in this middleweight division. I mean, I love it. And the build-up, both these guys are talking trash. Vittori's becoming a little bit less of an Italian and starting to talk trash like a real American, which I love. He's not looking as much like the dude from that oh my god, the
Jersey
monster
Shore.
from that movie as a kid. Come, you know which one? You know which one I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah. Like the
The
Goonies.
Goonies.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
monster from the Goonies. He's looking a little bit less like the monster from the Goonies, and he's looking a little bit more like Rocky Balboa. So let's see him get in there against Sean Strickland. Let's see the trash talk. I mean, come on, tell me I'm wrong.
I'm down to see it. Yeah, I hope they can reschedule this fight. I like seeing Marvin Vittori fight, and that fight was the best fight to make, in my opinion. But yeah, other than that, Sean Strickland would probably be the one. But then again, Sean Strickland's supposed to fight Alex Pereira, and I really want to see that fight too. So
Oh, that's right. My apologies, folks. I forgot about that one. Yeah. Okay. So he's already booked up. So we're in a bit of a pickle here at the middleweight decision. We're excited to see what the UFC has to announce for this one. Next on the news, Jake Paul, the highest grossing boxer of 2021. I repeat, the highest grossing boxer of 2021 has given his list of fighters that he'd like to fight next. And the Count Michael Bisping has appeared on the list. Kyle, in a fantasy matchup between Jake Paul and Michael Bisping, if you had an old $20, who would you put it on?
well, assuming this fight is all legit and no funny business, I would it's tough. These MMA guys that go into boxing never fare well. I would much rather see Jake Paul versus like Anderson Silva, because Anderson Silva looks like he's proved himself in boxing. He's beat like an actual legit boxer. I'd rather see that fight. Doesn't seem like Jake Paul's interested in that fight, but I would probably favor Jake Paul over Michael Bisping, just with the amount of injuries he's had and only having one eye. But might be a good fight.
I mean, in Michael Bisping's defense, I mean, he would be the biggest fighter that Jake Paul has ever faced. I mean, Woodley was smaller again. Ben Askren was a natural welterweight. So I would be excited nonetheless. And he did come up boxing first, Michael Bisping. But I totally agree. And Kyle, that's why they call you the brilliant, man. Because DC's a pretty brilliant guy. I mean, some people would say. I would definitely say. And you say the same thing as DC. Kyle, I'm just happy to be your co-host sometimes, man. I hope your intellectual just comes through and just rubs off on me sometimes, my man.
You're welcome. You're welcome, you know.
Next on the news, Alexander Volkov versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike has been confirmed by the UFC for June 4th. Pretty big fight, Kyle. Who do you have winning this one and why?
Volkov coming off a quick turnaround after the loss, or he lost to who did he just lose to? It's slipping my memory here.
I think he won his last fight, didn't he?
No, he just lost, I think. One of the top guys. Oh, Aspinall. He lost to Aspinall.
Oh yeah, he lost to Tom Aspinall in the main event a few weeks ago. That's right,
Yeah, so
and he
coming,
was dominated in that one. Yeah.
yeah, short turnaround. Yeah, I like this fight. I would probably favor Rosen. Tough one. I really like Volkov, and I think he can probably turn it around and probably win this one. I don't think Rosenstruck has looked that good in his last couple fights, so I'd probably go with Volkov on this one.
I tend to favor Volkov as well. I mean, he went into some pretty hostile territories in England versus the hometown favorite Tom Aspinall. I mean, that's tough. And of course, you're coming in as a Russian, sign of the times. I mean, I just think that night just wasn't his night. I mean, Volkov has proven to be a better fighter. Jairzinho is slowly becoming the signature can crusher of the heavyweight division. I mean, he's lost to everybody in the top five that there is. So I'm leaning slightly towards Volkov, but I do believe it's going to be a close fight. And Jairzinho Rosenstrike has shown the ability to knock out guys late, just like he did against Junior Dos Santos back in 2020. So tough fight, exciting one for the heavyweight division. I mean, they need new contenders. They need Jairzinho Rosenstrike to break through. I mean, do any of these guys, Kyle, do they show you that potentially they could challenge for a heavyweight title, or are these guys not quite there yet in terms of skill?
Yeah, I think they're maybe not quite there yet. I feel like Volkov is probably the closer one of the two, but the top five or so of the heavyweight division is pretty solid right now. You got like Sorogain at number one, Miocic at number two, Tyvos at three, Blades at four, Lewis at five, and Aspinall at six. And you throw John Jones in the mix there. That's definitely a killer's row of top six right there, top seven.
Killer's row indeed. But anyways, we'd love to see it, folks. That's a big fight. Winner definitely set up for another big contenders fight in a wide open heavyweight division. Last segment on the news, Neil Magny versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, official for June 25th. Is this going to be the coming out party for young Rakhmonov, or does Neil Magny do what he does best and halt the freight train?
Yeah, Rakhmonov looks like the real deal, in my opinion. It seems like him and Chimaev coming out at the same time, but maybe Rakhmonov is kind of taking his time a little bit more than Chimaev did, but his last fight was amazing. He's got some crazy skills, and I'm very curious. I think he's a little bit of a sleeper in this division. I think he has all the skills to potentially become a future welterweight champion. And out of Kazakhstan, there's not too many fighters. I think he's probably the only fighter out of Kazakhstan. So very interesting. And Neil Magny's no joke. He's a tough guy. He won his last fight, I think, right? A couple weeks ago. Or did he lose?
Yeah, absolutely agree, Carl. A wise man from Kazakhstan once said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, very nice." And we love to see Rakhmonov back in there. I mean, man, this guy killed it, folks. Great Canadian fight show. We found this guy early in his career. If he makes a run, buddy, get on here. Let's go. Let's talk to him, eh? But anyways, we love to see that one. I am picking Shavkat Rakhmonov to beat Neil Magny in that matchup and solidify his place in the UFC welterweight top 10. That wraps up an episode, folks. We're going to get into our picks for next weekend's fight night. We got Amanda Lemos. We got Jessica Andrade. UFC Fight Night on Saturday, April the 23rd. And we're going to get right into our picks, starting with the opening fight on the card. Men's flyweight bout. Manuel Kape versus the man with one name. His name is Sumudarji, and he is the Tibetan Tiger. Kyle, I believe that I beat your ass in last weekend's fight night. So I'm going to give myself the first dibs. And I'm going with Manuel Kape, as long as I want to go with the guy with one name, because that is so badass. I'm going with Manuel Kape to win via second round TKO.
I'm going to contest you on this one. I'm going to go with Sumu Derji. I think some of these fighters, like this guy's coming out of Tibet. I think these fighters are coming out of all places around the world and surprising people. So I'm going to go with him. I'm very curious to see how a Tibetan guy does in the UFC. Just like it was the last. So he has a decision win in the UFC. Yeah, I think he's gonna take it this week.
All right, folks. Next one, we've got the women's flyweight homegirl Macy Barber back in the ring against Montana De La Rosa. Barber coming in as a slight -180 favorite. Kyle Allen, who's your pick on Saturday night?
I'm gonna go with Macy Barber on this one. I think she's the younger fighter. I think she's looked really good in her last few fights. I'm just bringing up her record here. So she lost her last fight and then won the fight before that. I think she has a lot of skills. I think she gets it done. I think she gets it done this weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think Macy Barber definitely gets it done this weekend. I mean, with all due respect to Montana De La Rosa, Macy Barber is definitely someone in the women's flyweight division that the UFC is trying to build up. I do think they're trying to smartly feed her someone where she can build a winning streak again. She was 8-0 before going 1-2 in her last few fights. So I'm going with Macy Barber, but I don't think she does it as easily as many people think. I do think it's going to be Macy Barber via decision. Next up in the ballot, we've got all name Lando Venata. For all you Star Wars fans out there, that is a badass first name. Going up against Charles Jourdain, or Jourdain, as some of the English folks listening to our fans might pronounce. I'm going with Charles Jourdain to win this one. I do think he looked very impressive in his last fight. Lando, a little bit on the older side. And Jourdain is entering his prime in the UFC. I mean, again, I like what I see, and I'm going with Jourdain to pull it out. And I'm going to go via first round decision. First round submission. My apologies.
I'm going to contest you on this one. I'm going to go with Lando Venata. He's coming off 2-fight win streak. One of his fights being canceled, but his last loss was to Bobby Green, and we know how good Bobby Green is. So I'm going to go with Lando Venata by decision in this one.
Next up, we've got legend Clay Guida versus Claudio Puelles in a men's lightweight bout. Kyle Allen, who do you have winning this lightweight matchup?
You know how I like all these old guys in the UFC. I think this is the year of the oldies, as I've mentioned before. I got to give it to my man Clay Guida. I think he's not done yet. I think he's going to wrestle this young guy down, and he's going to show him what an old vet can do. So I'm going to go with that Clay Guida by decision.
I mean, if you look at their records, folks, it's pretty crazy. Guida's got a record of 37-18, while Claudio Puelles has a record of 12-2. I mean, this guy's been around for a long time. If you haven't seen his videos of him burping in between rounds, or burping or belching, I don't know what the proper exact term would be to use. Yeah, I mean, as much as I want to go with Clay Guida, though, I think this is his first real kind of adversary in his comeback run. So I think Claudio Puelles wins it via decision. Co-main event of the evening, Alexander Romanov going up against Chase Sherman. If I recall correctly, this is a last-second booking because of an injury. I'm going to go with Chase Sherman. He is a big favorite in this one. He is someone that I see as squeaking into the top 5, again, in a wide-open UFC heavyweight division. I think he wins this one by first round knockout. I'm calling it right now, right here, folks. Kyle Allen, the floor is yours.
I'm going to contest you. I'm going to go with Romanov on this one. 15-0. He's got some submissions. He's got some TKOs. I'm going to go with submission round 2.
Plus 375 Doug if you're going with the Brilliant Ones picks. You want to make some money on Saturday night, folks. Listen to the Brilliant One. Women's strawweight bout. Amanda Lemos going toe-to-toe with Jessica Andrade in a big strawweight bout with some title implications, I might say. Kyle, I'm going to let you have first pick of this one. Who do you have winning in the main event on Saturday night?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Amanda Lemos. I think she's a very skilled striker. She has KOs in this division, which is not super common for women in such a light division like this. But I think she's got all the striking skills. Only way I see her losing is if Andrade takes her down the whole fight and wrestles her and plays that and imposes that game plan on her. But striking wise, I think she gets her out of there with by TKO, and I'm going to say round 3.
Tough fight for Lemos. I mean, she's coming in ranked number 10, fighting against number 1 Andrade. Looked dominant all the way up until her last fight against Hill, which was the closest thing to a highway robbery that you could ask for. So I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade. I do think that she's just too much for Lemos. I mean, they're trying to catapult her into a serious contender in this division. But I think Andrade is no joke. I think her strength will be too much for Lemos. So I've got Andrade winning. But again, I think there's going to be a trend on this card, folks. I think it's going to be a decision. I don't think there's going to be a finish in this one. So that puts a bow on UFC Fight Night. Andrade versus Lemos happening Saturday night, April the 23rd. And that puts a bow again on this episode, folks. UFC, that's the Great Canadian Fight Show, episode 22. Kyle, any last words to the fans before we sign her off?
Definitely check out this week's card. I think it's a little bit of a sleeper card. I think there definitely could be some exciting fights on this card. It's kind of these cards where you don't think they're going to be super entertaining, end up being entertaining. So check it out. If you like our content, like and subscribe, and let us know what you want to hear from us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and anything we can improve on. And we're definitely evolving the show and trying to make little things better.
A motherfucking man, brother. Great Canadian Fight Show signing off. As usual, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure talking fights with you. Kyle, have a great night, my man. And as usual, have a great night, everybody. And we'll see you next week.